we function in a spiritual realm down here, and they're also functioning in a spiritual realm up there.
So, chapter 7, verse 9, as I looked, thrones were placed. Now, this actually becomes the origin of one of Paul's terms that we talked about last week in those lists. He talks about thrones and dominions, powers, authorities in heavenly places. This is where that comes from. So thrones were placed, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. So this is another way of talking about the Most High. As Christians, we would call him the Father. Describes him, his clothing is white as snow, his hair of his head is like pure wool. His throne is fiery flame, his wheels burning fire. A stream of fire issued and came out from before him. 1,000,000 served him, 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. And then look what it says. The court sat in judgment, and the books were open. Well, where are these? Where are we? We're in heaven. We're not on earth. We're not in some sort of a human courtroom.
That would be a big one.
I don't know what it would look like for the Most High, the Ancient of Days, to come and sit on a human bench. Might be interesting, but that's not what's happening here.
Nope.
We're in a heavenly court, and the thrones that are encircling God here are sitting in judgment. Well, that's what we just saw with the Watchers. They're judging. The books are open. Now, we don't need to go into what they're doing there, because the only point here is to say that, look, we have a heavenly courtroom scene, and it's really what theologians call the divine council. It just isn't used with those words, but you have all the elements that are present. You have God, the high God, and you have these other ruling entities. You have a court. You have decisions that are being made. And they're deliberating over the affairs of, if you look in the context, over humanity.
Yeah, I can remember when I first was encountering this, I really struggled with it. I didn't like it. I didn't like the thought that there was a deliberation of what's going on in the world. I wanted it to be God is up in the heavens, like doing his thing, and once in a while he'll have a pet angel go like tell a message to somebody. Like that's how it functioned in my brain. There's God, and there's like 5 or 7 messenger angels, and then everyone else is kind of up there, I guess, kind of floating and singing around, doing like there like, to me there's no structure other than they're all kind of just, a good example would be It's a Wonderful Life. That was probably the greatest example of my understanding of what was going on. You got this conversation between a couple of angels, but that's about it, right? It's very, and what's kind of refreshing here is, in many ways, Daniel's pulling back the clouds and saying, you want to know what goes on in the other realm? This is what's going on. So check it out. And it's kind of fun to sit back, and it's almost like the doors of Narnia walk in, and there's a whole nother world. In this world, there's no sin. And in this world is where God resides. And this is how it functions and works. And it's refreshing because you're starting to learn about this is the God that you love. This is the God that you serve. And he chooses to use his creation to be a part of not only redemption, but the reflection of his glory. So anyways, I just wanted to interact in there because I know that some of you are hearing this and you're going to want to go read this in the Bible and say, it's got to mean something else. And I know that there are times in scripture where we read things and it is a metaphor. It is a word picture, right? It's a simile. It is pointing us to something else. And a lot of times this does happen in scripture. But here, I don't believe that is the case. If we're going to read this and understand the context of where it's being read, I don't think it's a word picture for something else.
No, and this is why it was so important for us last week to start off with entities that we already know are real. So if you want to turn this into metaphor and spiritualize it, then the logical conclusion of that, and I'm not trying to make a slippery slope argument here, I think it's the actual logical conclusion of this, is that Satan is not a real entity. He's just a metaphor for something else.
Yep, the chaos
But
dragon.
we believe in a real supernatural realm with real agents that are over there that we will really go to when we die. And so it better be real. We better be, and we better be thinking about the reality, the literalness of it in terms of its existence.
Yeah. And if trust us here, if you start to embrace that this when Paul says it's all profitable, he includes this. He means this. You are learning about your God, and you're learning about the kingdoms, and you're learning how they function. Right now, you're learning about how the kingdom of light functions. Like we function in a spiritual realm down here, and they're also functioning in a spiritual realm up there.